Right. So, in today's lesson is going to be about getting noticed by recruiters, of course, or by employers. So let's get started. So we're going to be talking about senior positioning tips and how to position CVs, employer psychology, how they think, how the employers think and mentally, practical follow along. So we'll be doing this along with me, and then improving results. Let's see. All right. First of all, is the profile, which is the personal statement or personal summary of your CV, which is the first thing that people see or the employers see when they read your CV. Your CV summary is the first thing employers see. A strong 3 to 5 sentences summary highlights your most relevant skills and achievements, immediately communicates value. Don't write generic statements. Show how you solve problems. In your personal statement, first of all, it needs to be 3 to 5 sentences long. Now that depends on the level of role it is. So, for example, if it's an entry level role or a mid or a senior or even executive. So the more advanced the role is, the more you should add. Okay, there should be more. So longer sentences. So for example, could even go longer to maybe even 7, 8 sentences. But for a junior to mid-level role, which I'm assuming, which is where you are right now, is 3 to 5 for UK standard. And in your personal statements, the first sentences should be about you, who you are, your expertise, your experience, your skills, what you're doing, just about you and only you. The second part of it should be what you are looking for. So the role that you're seeking for and why. Your headline. That is the role, the title of your role, which should be underneath your name. So it'd be first your name and then your role underneath. And I'll show you that in a bit, what I mean. It'd be like a CV, in LinkedIn. If you have a LinkedIn account, which you definitely should have, you have your name there and then you have the title underneath. Exactly the same way in a CV as well. So a one-line headline that clearly states your role and expertise draws attention. Right. So as soon as an employer reads that role, they know, okay, straight away, okay, this is the role this person is or has. And it should also be the same role that you're looking for, just a bit, advancer. Unless you want to change completely to a different, industry or different market completely, then that's different. So an example would be entry-level digital marketer, right? That's one headline. Or it could be social media and analytics focus, for example. And then action. Open your CV and write or rewrite your summary and headline now. Focus on clarity, relevance, and impact, not fluff. You should be able to read it in 10 seconds and impress. So I have actually had. So this is CV that I generated in the previous video with ChatGPT, which was a tailored one that he generated. And this is CV that I created. Same person, same set of skills, same experience, everything. Just the one on the right, this one here, I made it. And this on the left, that's ChatGPT. And now for now, I just want to focus on the professional summary, okay? So on the ChatGPT one, it says innovative, detail-oriented software engineer with 3+ years of experience designing, developing, and maintaining web and software applications. Proficient in full-stack development with strong problem-solving skills and a focus on clean, scalable code. Experience in collaborating in agile teams to deliver high quality software solutions, seeking to contribute to a forward-thinking tech team. That's not bad. I have to be honest, that's not bad. However, it could be better because they're missing a few things, more details. For example, seeking to contribute to a forward-thinking tech team. It's quite vague. The overall is quite vague. It needs to be specifics, more detail, which I'll show how you do in this one here. So it's the same thing, just rewritten. So this one says software engineer with 3+ years experience, building scalable web applications and APIs using React, Node.js, and Python. So this is giving specifics of what the person has been using or using. It uses APIs, using React, Node.js, and Python, and it says what they have been doing. Web application and APIs, more details. It's more detail basically. And then skilled in database design, automated testing, and CI/CD pipelines, delivering high-quality software in agile teams. Known for problem solving, mentoring junior developers, and collaborating effectively with designers, product owners, and QA. So in this sentence, this part here is also talking about his soft skills. And if you don't know what a soft skill is, it's basically non-tech skills that you have. It could be communication skills, problem solving, hard worker, punctuality, things like that. And here it says problem solving. So that's one. Mentoring junior developers, which means, leadership. They're leading a team. They are guiding a team. They are mentoring them, developing them, training them, and collaborating effectively with designers. Teamwork, right? Strong communicator in the next sentence. Able to translate technical concepts to non-technical stakeholders. That is proof of your communication skills, right? So it doesn't say that I have those soft skills. It also explains them. Proof. That's what they're looking for. Proof is the only thing they're looking for, really. And that's a good skill to have, to be able to communicate with non-technical people, which is most likely going to be for the company that's going to hire. It's most likely going to be their clients, their customers. Stays. That's big. Over here, it doesn't really talk about that. It doesn't talk about that at all. It's very vague. That's what I'm saying. Like this, if you read this, you could say, so what to it. Right? You could read it and say, so what? Right? It has one here, one soft skill. Right? But it doesn't prove it. The reader. Strong problem solving skills and a focus on clean, scalable code. But, so what? But here, strong communicator, able to translate technical concept to non-technical stakeholders. And then while delivering reliable, maintainable solutions. Delivering solutions, problem solver. It doesn't even use the word problem solver in this sentence, but it proves it. You know what I mean? That's the kind of concept you need to have, that mindset in your personal summary. So go through your CV and see if you have these concepts or these principles on your CV. Right. And then skills. Your skills are so important to have. And they need to be relevant, okay? List only skills that match the roles you want. Employers often reject CVs cluttered with irrelevant software or experiences. Focus on 5 to 10 strong measurable skills. That's all you need, 5 to 10, but they need to be strong. That is more important and much better than having 20. Even if you have 5 to 10 strong skills in your 20, it still doesn't look as good as the one that has 5 to 10 strong skills only. Does that make sense? So basically, let's say a person has 5 to 10 strong skills only showed on a CV, that's much better than having the same strong skills, but you also have 10 other irrelevant skills in there. Because that's just waste for the employer. And also, they might think that you think that those skills are relevant, which doesn't look good on you. So only focus on the strong ones, the relevant ones. And also add evidence. For example, for each skill, add proof. Manage Instagram growth, 0 to 5K followers in 3 months. Now that's proof what you did. Or reduced error rate by 15% using Excel macros. This makes your CV verifiable and concrete. So for each skill, add some proof to it as well. Now, another thing about skills is that they are keywords, right? So that's why it's so important to have strong, relevant, focused keywords in your CV. Because when they use these ATS softwares that I mentioned earlier in my previous video, they will scan for these skills, these keywords. They're pretty much the same. So keywords, skills, pretty much the same. That's why it's so important. And when you add these evidences, the evidences, they need to be in your experience pages. So for example, for each skill that you have, mention them in your experience section and then prove it. So here we have the ChatGPT CV mentioned in these skills. What is good about this is that they are categorized, which I recommend that you do as well. Because they might go through, if for example, it wasn't categorized. Let's say you had Python here, Java, for example, down here, SQL in the middle, then they have to look for them one by one when the human reviews them. But if you categorize this, now this would be programming languages would be a better option to have, like I did here, programming languages, to be more specific. And then you mentioned the programming languages here. So the human reviewer, they could just read this and easily find what the programming languages are. Again here, backend. Let's say it was a role for a backend role, for example. You could just mention, okay, these are the skill for backend. These are the skill for databases, because database is also backend, really. Right? And then you mentioned the skills in your work experience. So over here, it was mentioned here, develop and maintain web applications. So web applications, meaning front end, using React and Node.js, improving user experience and performance by 20%. That's not bad. However, it needs to be more specific. Don't be vague. Vague is a word that you need to avoid as much as you can. Be more specific. So instead you could say resolved, right? Resolving meaning that you fixed an issue. You fixed a problem. Slow loading issues. And then you specifically say what the issue was. And then you say across 6 core user workflows. So now you're quantifying your sentence, right? You bring a result in. And then you say how. By refactoring React state logic and consolidate API calls, reducing QA defects. So you say what you did. So this is the what. And then you have the problem. right? And then you have the solution, how you did it, and then the result. So the what, how, solution, result. What, how, solution, result. That is a formula that you need to use for every single bullet point in your experience. And this is the way you showcase your skills. Okay, you don't say, for example, programming languages, Python. Python. I know how to code Python, and that's it. That's not how you code showcase. You need to use it in a sentence type, like so. Okay, so I'm also hoping that you're following along, because you need to also implement, not just listen in. Okay, you need to also do this. Okay, so the next part is experience then. So by experience. Now, when it comes to experience in general, it's probably the most important and focused by other recruiters. Experience is, that's who you are really. That's sort of like a proof of what you can do, what you've been doing. So experience is very important. And unfortunately, for people that don't have experience, it's really difficult to get a job done. But it's not impossible though, right? Especially if you follow this course, it would make it a lot easier. Even if you don't have experience, you can still get a good job. But when it comes to experience, you need to make sure that they are relevant to the role. Okay? So only include work or projects that relate to the job that you're applying for. Remove unrelated roles that distract or dilute your profile. And this is actually one of the most common mistakes that people do when they send in their CVs. The amount of CVs that I have received where they're looking to become, for example, an accountant, but in their CV they have included that they do, or that they have done other stuff like, for example, gardening, or they were a plumber before. That's completely irrelevant to the role, right? If you want to include them, you can, but it's only going to be there just to fill in, any gaps in your history. Okay, and when you do so, don't include what you did. Okay, just state the name of the role, right, and then the years, and that's it. That's all you need if they're irrelevant. Highlight achievements. Focus on what you accomplished, not duties. Use metrics or results whenever possible. Increase sales by 20%, for example, or let a team of 4 volunteers. Use what I like to do is a kind of like a formula, is a what, how, solution, result. So in your CV, you have the what you did, and how you did it, and the solution, right? And then the actual result. In every single bullet point of your work experience for any of the relevant roles that you may have. So don't just say what you did, okay? Because that's what I say that because a lot of people are doing that. That's probably the main thing that people do when they say sending their CVs. Then they just say what they did and that's it. And that's not enough. So if you scan your CV right now and rewrite 1 to 2 experience bullets to highlight results over responsibilities. This is something viewers can follow along. Right, so I'm talking to you now. This is actually a note that I did for myself, but basically there's something where you can follow along live and immediately improve your CV. So if I just hit that, okay. So if I could open up a CV here. Right, this is just a random CV that I made. It's a software engineering role, full stack. Right, we're not going to focus too much on this because right now we're talking about the experience. Okay, so this is a good example of your experience. Right, bullet point. So if you remember the formula here, the what, how, solution, result. So if you follow along, here is what you did, right? So you resolved, showcase that you solved a problem, right? So it's kind of like a solution as well, but it's not specified. So we still, it's still a what. And then it says slow loading issues. So they are talking about the problem here as well across 6 core user workflows. So we're also quantifying, right? We are quantifying the actual bullet point as well, which is what you need to do. And then by refactoring React state logic. So this is the how, okay? This part here. So from by to here, to calls. So by refactoring React state logic and consolidate API calls, right? This is the how. And you may not understand what that even means. Don't worry, this is only for the person, the recruiter, right? So obviously you're not going to copy this unless you have actually done this exact thing. But either way, the actual recruiter will understand what it means. And here's the result then. Reducing QA defects. Okay, so you reduce QA defects. So we have the what, we have the how, we have the solution, and the result. And you need to do that for every single bullet point of your experience. Okay? Does that make sense? Right. So if we go to the next page, which is all about keywords. And this is very important, especially for the first stage of applying, which is going through the ATS softwares that I mentioned before. It's when the software that recruiters use just to scan, the main keywords. And if the software doesn't find these keywords, it's most likely going to skip your CV. So what we do then, regards to job match, read 3 to 5 target job descriptions and highlight recurring keywords. ATS and recruiters scan for these tabs, right? So they scan for these, right? They don't actually read them, they scan, meaning they just skim past it, quickly, very quickly, just go through it quickly. So they don't focus too much. So you need to make sure you have keywords. Otherwise, they're going to skip yours. Integration. Naturally weave these keywords into your CV summary. Skills and experience. Avoid stuffing, make it readable and relevant. Right, so when you put these keywords, don't just put them randomly, okay? They need to be in your experience, right? And obviously in the skill section, and also have the main ones, the number 2 or 3 top in-demand keywords or skills in your personal summary, so they can actually see, okay, this person has that skill straight away. They don't have to go to experience to find out that you have that skills. Right? So if you take a CV and integrate at least 5 keywords from a real job advert you're targeting, this is a direct, actionable step to beat automated filtering. Okay? So if we go, let's go to Indeed. Right? So let's just open Google Chrome. Go, for example, Indeed. Now, Indeed is the number 1 platform, by the way, in the UK. This is where most jobs are. So let's just example, because I made a CV as a software engineer or developer. So let's do that. Software developer. And let's just go London, because there are way more jobs in London than anywhere else in the UK. I mean, look here. 3,000 plus jobs in London. If we go Birmingham, 100 plus. I mean, massive difference. I mean, London is crazy. So if your goal is to, just to get a job in UK, just like anywhere, London is your number one. Okay, so we got a lot of jobs here, software engineers, developers. They're pretty much the same thing. So if I just click on one, right, what you should do is you go and open another tab, and then you go to the next one. Doesn't matter what the level is. I'm noticing that this is a much lower level because of the salary difference, as you can see. So this is probably a senior, very experienced, and this one not so much. But it doesn't matter because they will still have the same main skills that you need for both jobs. The main ones, right? And this is a bit different, front end. So I'm not going to go through that one. And then you go another one. I would go through I would do this at least 10 times, right? So I'm not going to go through all of them now, but you should do that though. Go and find 10 of the same role, and preferably as well at the same location. And again, it doesn't matter the level, as long as it's the same role, because you need to find the main ones, and they most likely going to have the same main skills that you need. So if you go here to not this one, for example, and you go to the requirements, what they're looking for. Sometimes they will say who we're looking for. Sometimes it'll be requirements. It doesn't matter, but as long as you find what they want. Okay, so the main skills then that they have mentioned programming languages. So C#, JavaScript, React, Blazor Developer Platform, .NET and .NET, Framework, and more. Okay, so you highlight them, and then you go to the next one. And then you go and see the requirements, okay. Okay, 3+ years, that's not even that much for that salary. That's actually a really good role. I know it's in London, but that's still a good salary in London. Even if, the cost of living is there is pretty insane. Right, but if you go back to the skills then, they have not really mentioned, they just said AWS, Azure, Scrum. It looks like a different type of role to the other one. It's still, software development, but software development is quite broad. So these are different. And then I have nice to have. They haven't really mentioned the main skill that you need, which is fine. We just move on to the next one. Okay, this one. Okay, I'm seeing now the C# came up twice. So that could be a common skill to have. Right, and they only want 1 year experience or minimum. Essential skills, SQL. I believe the other one had SQL as well. Yeah, SQL. So SQL and C# for both of them. All right. So then you go to the next one. Again, C#. Okay, so we can already tell that C# is the number one main skill. So you definitely need to, if you want to become, well, it's not definitely, but it's one of the main skills to have, according to, these 4 rows that we went through. But like I say, you should go through 10, my opinion, at least. Okay, so C#. So definitely, that way, if you don't have C# mentioned anywhere in your CV, then guess what? You're not going to pass the ATS software, right? So you're not going to get to the next stage where the human reviews your CV. Most likely, that will be the case. So that's what you need to do, okay? But I just did that quickly. But what you do more of a thorough research. So you would go through at least 10 job roles, and then also find at least 5 keywords from the job, okay? And it doesn't have to be technical skills either, right? It doesn't have to be technical skills. It could even be, soft skills that we mentioned. Soft skills like communication skills or hard work, attention to detail, right? Problem solving. Here's one. That's a soft skill that they want. So definitely have that as well in your CV if that is the main one. But I definitely think problem solving in computer science type of field in general is probably the number one soft skill to have, because it's all about solving problems when you code. I know that because my background is computer science. Right. Formatting as well is very important. Clarity. So use clear headings, bullet points, and consistent fonts. Recruiters spend seconds scanning your CV. Clarity matters more than creativity. So ATS softwares, they don't really scan as thorough for the the format of it. But a human reviewer, when they read your CV, first they scan it, right? They don't read them. They scan them first. And then when they choose, the ones that they think are the best, let's say like the top 5, then they actually read them thoroughly, those top 5. So when they do the scanning, if it's not clear, if it's hard to read the CV, they're not going to read it there. So you've then failed again. So you passed the ATS, but you didn't pass the human reviewer. Like it says here, recruiters spend seconds scanning your CV. Clarity matters more than creativity. So you could be very creative, very highly experienced, but if it's hard to read your CV, it has a lot of inconsistencies. The bullet points are randomly here and there. The person summary is way too long. It's like an essay. They're just not going to read it. And then highlighting as well is important. Bold your most important achievements or skills so they stand out instantly. Avoid dense paragraphs. So you can also do so as well. It's not very crucial or anything, but it's very good to do so, because then I can see your main achievements, main goals, main skills stand out, and I can find them easily. So if you reformat your CV section by section now, make it scan friendly and visually clear. This simple tweak increases your chance of catching the recruiter's eye. This is very simple. So we go back to the CV that I created. This is the format, UK style format that you need to have. Right. It also depends on the actual role. Some roles they slightly differ, but for a technical role, this is how it is. So you would have your name here, right? The name needs to be a bit bigger and than the rest. So this size, 16 to 18 is my recommendation. And then the name of the role that you are, that can be 12 to 14 or in bold, right? If you're going to use 12, then do bold. So it gets even bigger. And then you just have the, the location, phone number, email, and then, of course, if you are in the tech field, you definitely need a portfolio. So then you link to your portfolio, LinkedIn site. And then you have the professional profile or summary. Again, the rest can be size 11 to 12, right? Don't do smaller than 11 and don't do bigger than 12. So I chose 11, which is fine. And then the titles must be in bold, like so they can stand out, so they know what they're reading. Right, and then what you can do, the main skills that we found earlier, right? So this one, I just made this CV for a specific role. And as we found, problem solving was key soft skill. So we can make that into bold, like that. You see how, what difference I made? You as a scanner, if you scan this quickly, you notice the problem solving skills straight away. Okay. And let's say Python is another one, which is it is actually a very good skill to have. Again, boom. Python like that. And you can do the same in the experience. So if you go to the experience section, where you mention the skills, like you can say, like, for example, React. React is a good skill to have in front end development. So this is just a quick example that I'm making, right? And it just highlight the main one. You know, the top 5 main ones, highlight them. It's everywhere. So the whatever you found was the main 5 ones, highlight them. Again, Python, like that. Let's say React was a key skill, React Native. And then Python again. You know? The point is just to make it easy for the scanner. You know, the recruiter scanning. Make it easy for them to scan your CV. That's the point. Because that's what they want. Okay. So now just to review. Check alignment. Ensure every CV section aligns with the job description. Ask, does this show I can solve their problems? Right? So whatever they're looking for, you know, when we went to the Indeed here, for example, they're looking for, you know, problem solving, right? And if you go back to the PowerPoint here, does this show I can solve the problems? If you have problem solving mentioned here, then yeah, most likely it does show to them that you are a problem solver, which is their problem, the company's problem, right? They're not hiring someone because they want to. No company hires people because, you know, for the sake of hiring. No, it's because they need someone. Which means these are whatever the skills, whatever they're looking for here is what they need, right? So which means that is a problem in their company, which they need to, you know, sort it out. So when you put down your CV or put forward your CV, it needs to showcase that you are there to fix their problem. In essence, right? So they're looking for problem solving, right? A person that can do, you know, good at problem solving. So definitely have that in your CV then. And that shows them that you are the person for them because you're there to sort out their problem. And again, if we go here, essential skills, they have a problem. The company has a problem. They need someone with SQL Server Management Studio and associated tool skills. They need someone for that. They have a problem and you're there to fix it. All of this. C# Python. Does your CV, if you mention Python, you mention problem solving, SQL, you mention all of this, right? It shows them that you are there to fix the problem and that you can do so. Now, another thing I want to mention is, just quickly, if you then, when you go and apply for jobs, and there's a list of bunch of, you know, bunch of skills that they require, and they're like, yeah, but I'm not good at this. You know, and this one, I never heard of that before, but I know this and that. But this one, forget it, don't apply. No, don't do that, okay? The reason why they're doing so is because they want, you know, they want to get the most out of the candidate as much as possible. So they just put a bunch of skills as much as possible and just hope for, you know, someone there that can fill in and have all or most skills as much as possible, right? So if you think you're lacking a bit, still apply. No, don't go and, you know, I'm missing this or that. No, because they know they're not going to find someone that has all the requirements, all the desirable skills, all the essential skills, No one has that. Okay, no one has all of this. No one does. So still apply, okay? Don't worry. As long as you have, the main ones, the essential skills. So this is probably, if you don't have these, then you're definitely not going to get a job because these are essential ones. No. Right? So the desirable ones, that's good to have, but they know they're not going to find someone with all of that. Okay? So don't worry. Even experience. Sometimes they say, oh, I need someone 10 years experience. And you would have, 8, for example. Still apply. Don't worry. They know they might not, find someone to at least 10. And even then, someone with 5 years experience could be someone who has more skills than someone with 10. Someone could have 10 years experience, for example, but they are missing a few of these skills that you have, even if you've done 5 years something. So don't worry. Still apply. Don't do that. Okay, that's just a thing I wanted to throw out. Okay? Good. So your CV needs to show that you can solve the problems. Second opinion, share your CV with a friend or a mentor for quick feedback. Maybe you know someone in your field, right? Just send it to him. Say what do they think? Fresh eyes spot mistakes or unclear phrasing. Doesn't even have to be an expert, right? Your friend that has nothing to do with your role or your field. They could spot something, maybe a spelling mistake or grammatic mistake, or maybe UK styled word or terminology, right? You got nothing to lose. Then action, complete a full CV review and make final adjustments. You now should have polished, employer-targeted CV ready to submit as of now. Your CV now should be to, the most or fullest potential and ready to send.
However,
I wouldn't recommend just send it just now, or you could still do so. There's nothing to lose, but there are a lot more things that we need to go through. Things like, cover letter and all that stuff as well. LinkedIn reaching or networking. So follow along for that. That's going to be very important and it's going to add value to your CV and when you apply. So what we went through today, position CV strategically, right? Match skills and roles. Make sure that the CV that you send matches the roles and you have the right skills. Interview keywords effectively. So these skills and keywords, they're pretty much the same. They mean the same and they make sure they are there and they're not just randomly there, right? They are inside the personal summary, they're inside the experience as well. And they are there naturally. And then you follow along, hopefully, by doing so with me. And as always, if you are enjoying the course, you can also always book a free one-to-one UK strategy call with me. There's a link. Just copy that, paste there, and it's a free one-to-one call where I can discuss, or we can discuss how I can help you find a job in the UK. Okay? As always, thank you. See you later. Bye.